Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my one, my only, my favorite, my true co-host. It's Tyler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Oh, wow, you really embellished that time. Your favorite. So lucky. Amazing. I'm glad to be here with Jeff Nauman, the one and only.
Absolutely. So we're joining us for the first time on the show. Jeff, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Much doing good. Doing
Fantastic.
good.
Jeff is a Nurgle expert and tournament organizer, and just all around awesome person. So we are happy to have him on the show to talk both Nurgle and everything else we're going to talk about tonight. But that is our chief topic of discussion. We're going to revisit Nurgle. It's been out now for several months. Did our initial sort of hot takes hold up to scrutiny in the light of day? Spoiler, yes.
It is Warmer Weekly, so obviously we nailed it.
Obviously, we nailed it. 10 out of 10. This is going to be just a victory lap of a show. Just celebrating in the end zone. Absolutely. All right, but of course, first, the news.
All right. Apparently everybody's favorite segment of this show, Rumor Engine.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is. Jeff, as the guest, we're going to let you have the distinct privilege of making the first dumb guess tonight. Let's have it.
What would you say the rumor engine is, Jeff? What is this strange mallet? I mean, it's obviously a mallet, but what is this mallet?
I cannot see it currently. 1 second.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, there it is. There it is. I see it. Okay.
Okay.
Looks like
That's-
a haphazardly put together, like that's a MacGyvered mallet, it looks like.
Mhm.
So I would say that's going to be at least goblins of some sort, I would think. Gits, maybe?
Well, so a couple of things we have here as signifiers. You'll notice we do have our check pattern up near the hilt, which is, of course, our checks and or dags, a signifier of orcs and or goblins. So that right there is a good clue. Obviously, it's shoddy construction, the bent nails. It tells me it's a Blood Bowl thing. It's like the little mallet. I feel like this is a Blood Bowl gets star player or gets expansion or something of that nature. Like someone who has brought a mallet onto the field.
Right.
I don't think of what star player that would be.
I don't know.
Could
They
see
could
that.
always make a new one.
This is true. Not like they haven't done that before, right?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like they do often favor remaking past star players, but there's nothing stopping them from remaking a star player, or sorry, making a new star player. But either way, that's what it feels like to me. So sadly, likely not within our realm, but at any rate, such is life.
Right. In more exciting news, last Friday, we have the reveal of the next Warhammer Underworlds, Nether Maze. And Vince, I know you happen to have an opinion.
Woo! That's right,
box.
baby. We did it. We did it. Unfurl the banner. Mission accomplished. We have new Ninja Rat sculpts. It has happened. There it is. I heard there was another team, crew, warband in this box. I don't care. It's irrelevant. I don't have a photo of them. They're just more Shadow Stonkers. They do serve Marathi. So all the people last week when I was like, oh, it's going to be Marathi's people and this, and they're like, nah, dog, it's Malarian. We're going to finally get a Malarian crew. And I'm like, okay, you can keep on that hopium. Now, I'll be all on board when, like, a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever we get Malarian, they're like, oh, the Shadow Stonkers were double agents the whole time, working for Malarian while serving Marathi. Like, sure, man, I can see that. But they're clearly, so it's like, it's just new Shadow Stonkers. They're just variant Shadow Stonkers. They're fine. This is where the action is, though. This is amazing. This is what we all wanted. I think I can say with 100% certainty that this is what every single man, woman, child who plays or is familiar with Age of Sigmar wanted. This is a 0% miss rate right here. This is exactly dead on. This is perfection in miniature form. Well done. We did it. We've reached the mountaintop. We have new Eshin rats. All that could be better is if we just turn this into a box set. Like, pack 2 of these together into a box set. Boom, there's your Gutter Runners, Night Runners. Like, have some different options for builds for switching weapons, and I'm good to go. Like, that's it.
So, as someone who doesn't know rats very well, of the 5, are these all going to be class? So presumably one of these is going to be a hero, and then are these others all going to be classified?
Yeah, I
as
think the guy up
Gutter
front is
Runners, or-
supposed to be the hero. Like, the guy on the pipe is supposed to be the
Still
hero.
pretty cool pose if you really look at that. That's a really cool pose.
Yes, he's also was a rumor engine, right? He was the one on the pipe we saw a long time ago.
Yeah. The rest of these are just all Gutter Runners.
Yeah, I mean,
Or probably
like the difference between what a Night Runner is and what a Gutter Runner is, like in sculpt, is hard to
okay.
tell because we've been relying on the same old sculpts of 2 different varieties for like a million years. So traditionally, the Gutter Runners were more sort of thin and had heavier cloaks and more accoutrement, better weapons. But that's because they were still an old metal / fine cast out of the like mid 90s. Whereas the Night Runners were built out of the Night Runner plastic kit box set, which is the kit I bought in like 1998 or 9 or whatever for my Mordheim crew, right when the Mordheim book came out. And it's the exact same box you can go and buy today. So real winner there. But all of these are great. I like Jumping Smoke Guy the best. I think he's amazing. Smoke Bomb being a classic part of it, but they're all great. I like them all. So I'm down with these guys.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
So, related to this, we had 2 images floating around this week of reboxed rats as well. Presumably meaning that a book might be on the way.
Does this mean a new battle tome is on the way? Is that his statement? Yes. Like yes. I mean, how many times can we say it? We've been saying that the summer book, Chaos book, is going to be a Skaven book, and this just proves it in my mind. We're there. Now, am I sad we're not going to get resculpted clan rats or plague monks? Sure, but I've already said I live in the worst of all possible worlds, where I expect to get like 0 resculpts. Like, this is in my mind the new sculpts we're getting, which, by the way, I mean, it's not bad. You can, as soon as they put these out individually, you can now pay a lot of money for your Night Runners and Gutter Runners, which you can get there. Sure. But yes, it's absolutely a Skaven book. Skaven are cool for the summer. That's obvious.
I agree with that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I think that's all we got.
Yeah, simple, quick news week, but a great news week. It doesn't matter when one item hits like a meteor that ends the dinosaurs. You don't need anything else. Okay, we have new Skaven ninja rats. This is truly a great time to be alive. So,
Mic drop, done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, shut it down. Frankly, we've done it.
It's over.
Yep, it's all done. Okay. So yeah, but I mean, these guys are great. So I think that they're painted a little differently than most people would expect. Like, they have a slightly off, unusual rat skin tone, but I think if you paint them in the normal like Pantone of Skaven, I think they'll look awesome. Anywho, yeah, let's get into some pick of the week. So, pick of the week, Jeff, hit us up. You're the guest. What's your pick there, my dog?
It's an online store, I guess you could say, ministomp.com. Really, I mean, it's veteran owned, so, I mean, and they actually just did a bunch of deals where a lot of their stuff that you would buy, they donated to the Ukrainian crisis and whatnot, so that was really cool on Ministomp's part. But he normally does really good deals. Every so often on Twitter, you'll see like a spicy deal, so he's got like all like the really hot stuff, and then he gets a really good price for it. So.
Also, I enjoy that Chase thinks I haven't played a Nizumi at some point in my role-playing career. Like, I haven't played multiple Nizumi throughout my life. I do like them very much, Chase. Okay, so, Tyler, what's your pick? You got, like, what's your picks, Tyler?
Picks.
You got like
you
a
should know by
million.
now.
And by the way, good pick, Jeff. Mini Stomp is awesome. Quick note, if you go to his website, it's just like signing up for the email. That's what you're doing. And then that's how you communicate with them. It's not like you don't order through the website, so don't think it's weird. But yes, Mini Stomp is awesome. Okay, hit us with your plethora of picks.
Been watching a lot of AOS Coach over the last week. He had 2 excellent shows. One with Emma Mangles, did really well at Adepticon. So hopefully everybody knows by now. She rocked it with Rotbringer Oven, a rare pick in the Nurgle scene. She went 4-1, did amazingly well with it. It was a really fascinating episode. Hearing her talk through very Johnny List. A lot of details that she went into with it. So that was an awesome show. Tobias Kempf, I believe, I'm forgetting his last name. He did a show recently on Bellacore Nurgle. That was really intriguing. A lot of different lists there. Our friend Matt Sweeney, he's our bogey opponent, Vince, for you and I at NashCon. Had a great show on Stormcast. Yep.
We call him the Game 5 Terror. That's what he does. You think you're on a run toward 5-0, and Matt Sweeney shows up and he's like, Dikembe Mutombo, just right out of there. No. Yep. Boom. Shut you down.
Yep, happened to both of us. And then Warp Charge Gaming, Oscar and the folks over there, they just had an RTT one day or over the past weekend running War Coda, and they put their games online. There was a lot of cool matchups, like Gitz versus Ogres, Night Hunt versus Beastclaw Raiders, Skaven. It was, the kind of mid-tier list, not a lot of the top stuff, but it was really interesting to see. Always cool to see the missions get played and how folks are playing them. So, yeah, that wasn't too many. It was like 5 or 6.
You got right through that. That was great.
I have to mention this man's event. So I've been attending this man's event. We're gonna get the NashCon Gateway Open mess fixed next year, one way or another, right, Jeff?
That's the plan.
For that on this show, to where we don't have to keep doing this. Okay, so Gateway Open. When is it this year?
August 20th and 21st.
And 21st. Sincerely, I'd probably tell you your if I hated your tournament, I'd probably tell you because I respect you. You run a fantastic
I appreciate that.
You run a fantastic event. Been many years. It's always incredible. Yeah, it happens just outside of St. Louis, and then across the river, where Collinsville, Illinois. Officially.
Yep.
GT, it's amazing. Everybody check it out. We'll have the link below. And yes, hopefully we will have this to where people can actually attend both NashCon and Gateway Open. So Dave Griffin, if you're listening as well, one of you guys got to fix this.
I gotta talk. I gotta talk to my guy again.
Oh. Right, well, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I hope you all get it worked out because it seems like a great tournament. But my loyalties are already. I have my priorities, so there it is.
I can't fault you for that, but
yeah. I mean, like, one of the TOs gives away swords as a prize, so
I can't do that.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I'm going where the swords
find
are.
Somebody.
That's what it is. At any rate, my pick of the week is very simple, and that is to our good friend Uncle Adam, who put out an awesome video interviewing a bunch of content creators at Adepticon this last Friday. So he interviews Maniac, Scott, and Ninjon, and Lila Mev, and a bunch of other wonderful people, and just talks to them about creating content and why they do it and what motivated them to do it. So if you're at all interested in content creation or content creators or doing it for yourself, I think it was just a really sort of illuminating video about the process and about what motivates these people. So there you go. Go check it out. It was a really good interview, and it's well done as always by Adam. So okay, cool. Well, with that, let's turn to some hobby time. Jeff, what's on your table, man? What have you been working on?
I currently just finished pinning up my Lord of Afflictions and currently working on some Blight Lords for Vault Wars, Tyler's tournament in May. So I've been juggling that and just having a little nurgling of my own. So it's been my wife actually got a picture of me today where I had him on the boppy and I'm sitting there painting my Blight Lords, and she's like, I gotta send this to people. I'm like, okay, fine.
And Nurglings are a hot pick right now, so thank you for introducing a new one to the world. Good work.
he definitely is. Trust me. Holy cow.
Very nice. All right, Tyler, did you paint anything?
Thank you. Nailed it. After May, that might become a relevant question. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know when you're going to start painting terrain, or sorry, painting units because of the terrain. So I don't know. Yeah. I got to ask every week now. It's just being responsible.
Sure. Endless spells are units, right, Jeff? Pretty sure endless spells count as a unit. Yep, we're going to go with that.
To the book.
No, so let's see.
I mean, I'm actually kind of curious myself. No, I mean, technically, I guess.
This became a big argument, if you don't remember,
of
the endless spell versus is it a unit versus a model, and so on and so forth. At any rate, continue.
Was that really? Seriously?
Yeah, because there was a whole rules interaction that was happening around that.
Oh, dear God. Well, I know Nurgle, you get disease points.
Otherwise, let's see, a lot going on. Disease points? Yeah, that's true. You do. Yeah.
If they're cast by the appropriate Nurgle source.
Yes, if they're yeah.
At any rate,
let's see. Yeah, a lot going on. Obviously, Vault Wars. We got the trophies in from Dark Fantastic Mills. They look amazing. So thank you to Gary over there. That man does awesome work. He did a custom one for us. So really excited about that. Got a game in against dragons and more dragons. A few liberators thrown in there. With my modified Stormcast list. Added Lord Commander Badass. Took out 5 Retributors and Cogs. Had points, perfect for him. Love that guy. Good game. It definitely the what are they called? Priority targets that made a difference. That's why I won that game. Priority targets. That's a thing apparently in some games. Who knew? But yeah.
Okay, there you go. Well, you were playing Stormcast and you went and hunted the priority targets. So the clever redistribution of wealth scheme that was meant to give power to the weak armies and knock down armies like Stormcast. In fact, what you're saying is that the wealthiest were the best posed to take advantage of this redistribution scheme.
Nailed it. That sounds like something somebody on some show may have said at one point.
That maybe Stormcast would be in a good position to capitalize on this own weakness in their army. As with Seraphon and everything else. So, at any rate, yeah, not surprising. What a surprise!
Shocking.
The army that has 50 hammers that can kill things easily is able to capitalize on that system. That's so weird, man. I don't know. I didn't see it coming. My hobby time. I'm actually painting something I can share. How about that? Yay!
Wow.
I'm painting this girl, the Gladiatrix, from the Arena of Shadows box set or whatever. I am painting her up ostensibly in my head as a potential Golden Demon entry, but as a tribute to Gavin Garza, so he is the Slayer Sword winner from the US. I am going what I would like to call full skink mode on this piece, really trying to focus in my practice on doing clean, smooth, like perfectly executed, careful work. Not a style I normally paint in. I will be honest, I'm normally pretty loosey-goosey and then come back later and clean up. But the problem is with that is then you don't always remember to clean everything up. And I think this is one of my challenges. So I'm trying to paint in a slightly different style and explore new ways to paint, expand my repertoire, always keep learning and pushing yourself. She's really fun. She's such a great model. And I think she's like a perfect model for this kind of a test. So maybe maybe she'll end up being a submission. Maybe she won't. I don't know. But it's still a great exercise to push yourself. So it's been very cathartic, I'll say.
Totally do it.
Yeah.
Everything was white noise after you said full skink mode. The fact that that's a phrase that's now out in the universe, we're going to have to do a lot of work on this show.
Putting it out there. I'm just saying, next time you go all in on a clean paint job, trying to make real smooth, right? Just get to that buttery smoothness. Full skink mode. That's what you do.
Never go full skink mode.
And that's just a tribute to Gavin.
It's going to be a t-shirt. There's going to be a product line. You've created just a horrific, new piece of destruction.
It's all as a tribute to him. I was deeply impressed by that piece. I thought it was a really, really amazingly well done model. And seeing it inspired me to push myself harder in some different ways. That's awesome. Like, I don't know what better compliment I can give, frankly.
still think it's all
So.
a conspiracy, but that's just all right.
I thought it was a great looking model.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It blew me away. And
I
so
mean,
if I'm
glint on
going to
the
do
spear?
this, let's call it what it is.
Probably have skinks somewhere back there, I'm sure. You probably got a box of them, but yeah.
All right. So that's hobby time. Well, gentlemen, that was fast. Look at us just
Go
blowing
for a
through
record
topics.
tonight, Jeff.
Boom.
Let's
Do what
it.
I can.
With
But
that,
I'll let you be in here.
let's get into the Nurgle action. That hot Nurgle action.
Anyway, I've got a ball game to watch tonight, so that's part of it.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
NBA, it's an acronym. Yeah, it's a big deal in some circles. Jeff is a huge fan. He hates baseball. Big on NBA, right?
Yeah,
St.
sure. That's oh
St.
god,
Louis,
that's St. Louis. Yeah.
It's the minor league team. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Okay. I assume you guys are talking about something. These probably have words, but that's fine. All right. Let's talk about Nurgle. Let's talk about something we can all appreciate. All right. So, Nurgle. Here we are. We're back. I'm just gonna start before we get into the summary. I wanna get both of your takes on this. Jeff, let's start with you. Nurgle, where are you living on this right now? It's been out for several months. How do you like it?
I've always personally liked Nurgle, so instantly, obviously, all in. I mean, I can't fault anything for it. I think it actually plays as a Nurgle army should. Resilient, slow, just, beating you up until one side capitulates more times than likely it's going to be the other side. But I'm just very happy with the book.
Okay, cool. Tyler?
Yeah, so Nurgle, the prior book that was holding the championship belt, or best designed in my mind, and probably the first principle that I always think about, at least for me personally, a best designed book, is viable variety, which is another way of talking about internal balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have external balance as well, but kind of you start with internal balance.
Sure.
This book has either taken the belt or it's sharing it with Soulblight. There are a few misses, which I'm sure we'll talk about in terms of some of the war scrolls. The whole, though, yeah, it is kind of right in that sweet spot, and we'll probably get into its overall win rate in a little bit. That conveys that of competitive, but a wide variety of options within the book. I mean, we have seen so many different lists come out of this book. So yeah, I think it's one of the best ones that they've done in 3.0, which have generally been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, is this the best book released for 3.0? It's my question with a bullet right at the top of my summary. And I mean, I'll tell you my answer straight off. I won't wait. Yes. Yes. By the way, I would put Fire Slayers in number 2. Which just like no part of the words that I just said make any sense to me. Okay? Vince should not be saying your best books are Nurgle and then Fire Slayers. 2 armies I hate. But yet they were great books. And it's not like any of them have been bad. I'm just saying Nurgle stands apart. It's amazing. I've been consistently surprised by this book. Multiple lists, multiple paths to victory. We've been seeing good results out of a mixed set of different lists. As you said, there are some units not seeing play, but a large portion of the book has shown itself to be viable. And by the way, I think there's always going to be some units in any book release, no matter how good, that aren't going to be immediately viable. Even if you had like a perfectly internally balanced book, the nature of the meta at that moment might just make some units not be chosen. Like, for example, you could have like a really cool, strong anti-magic hero or something. And if there's just like no potent magic floating around in the meta, that's a pass, right? It doesn't mean that guy isn't internally balanced correctly. It just means that like in the world of that meta, he has no life. But year from then, the meta might shift. Magic becomes heavy. Suddenly that dude's a hot pick. So it's not always an indictment just because you don't use a thing, but there are some things that are just not worth playing. I think the army's tough. It works as a soft gatekeeper without being oppressive. And the best thing I can say is it actually feels like playing Nurgle, both against it and when you are piloting it. It's incredible.
100%.
Agreed.
Yeah, and the core mechanic of disease points, that was one of those things that there was a lot of consternation around. Folks weren't sure about it. Was it going to do enough? So on and so forth. Once you actually play against it, play with it, I immediately felt it. Like, okay, wow, yeah. And it could also be a challenging thing to get right. It's like I think one strategy when you read that book, you could like, all right, I'm just going to lean hard into disease point generation, and I'm going to mortal wound spam my opponent to death. But yeah, I don't think you can. Maybe if somebody's figured out how to do that, I don't quite see it. Like you can lean into it a little bit, but I think if you lean into it too hard, you're making sacrifices in other areas that you don't want to be. So I think it gets you out of balance, out of whack in terms of your optionality and so on with your list building. But yeah, no, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about disease a little bit before we get into the stats. Because I think disease is the best mechanic that they've written in 3.0. And I want to explain why. So we have a problem in the game right now. That problem is called mortal wounds on 6s to hit. Okay? Now, that is especially problematic on ranged units, especially ranged units who can stack other benefits on top of that, i.e. shoot at long range, ignore line of sight, also have a high rend, have an extremely high accuracy through either low to hit numbers or rerolling to hits, like whatever. We covered this in a previous show. The problem with 6 to hits equal mortal wounds is that the delta between a mortal wound and a point of damage is too high. Okay? And so and the hit roll is too multitudinous, I guess is what I would say, right? To actually properly balance. So you got sort of two problems. You have one problem where it's actually just too effective. It's about, and where you'd actually want that mathematically to sit if you go and break down the numbers is you'd want about half of that. Like if we were using D12s to attack and you mortal wounded on a 12 to hit, it would actually be exactly correct. Okay, that's the best way I can say it. But we don't. We use D6s, which only have 6 sides, as you may have figured out. The other problem with 6s to hit is that they have a scalability challenge. So what it encourages you to do is, because the mortal wound has such a high efficacy, you're encouraged, and there's no cap, you're encouraged to just run the number of hits up to like 1,000,000, right? As close as you can get to infinite number of hits, better, right? So you want always just more attacks, bigger units, more attacks, more attack bonuses, just yada, yada, yada. 60 zombies with Van Hells, like whatever, you can pick your thing. Lots of melee mortal wounds to 6s aren't as impressive because they happen to be on a chassis that itself is unappealing. So, like things that just... So, for example, Gut Rippas being a good example of this. Like, they're a slow chassis that's also has no defense. So they just die way too easy to actually do any damage. But obviously the opposite side of that is something like Sentinels or, zombies as aforementioned or whatever. Okay, so... Disease actually solves both the efficacy problem and the scalability problem in a single mechanic. Because what's your chance of getting a mortal wound out of that 6 to hit? Well, it's a 4+ base. I understand you can mess with that number, but base it's a 4+. So it's 50%. Right?
Yep.
It's exactly mathematically where it should be. By the way, the other way you can solve it is you can move it to the wound roll. That still doesn't solve the scalability problem, which is what I've pointed out, because every time I mention this, people are like, just move it to the wound roll, and then everything's magically better. And I'm like, no, that is not, it is neither, that is not even close to sufficient to solve the problem. One, because that works okay if you hit on 4s, then you get the right sort of efficacy, but you're still encouraged to scale to 1,000,000, right? But if you hit on 2s or 2s re-rolling 1s or something, then it does literally nothing, right? It's mathematically irrelevantly different. But disease doesn't work like that. Disease solves the efficacy problem. It also solves the scalability problem by capping at 7 disease points, meaning you can't run it to 1,000,000. What you ideally want is about, something like 25 attacks out of a unit, somewhere in that range, and that'll push you up to around your 7 once you factor in like spellcasting and your existence near them in movement and combat, right? So it's just an absolute brilliant mechanic. Like, I appreciate its mathematical elegance at being so perfect for what actually means like what balanced means in terms of how this game operates, just from the rip. So
That's totally well said. Yeah.
so there you go. I had to give my disease speech there, which I think Tyler's had to listen to a couple times now, but there we go.
I think it was well said.
Hey, if you like the disease mechanic, hit the like button. That's what you can do. If you were excited about Skaven, hit the like button. I know I am. Subscribe, do all those fun things. All right. Hitting buttons is fun and helps other people find the show. You too can be a hero. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about stats, which these stats are so great. I love reviewing Nurgle stats as I did these. These are all obviously since the release of the Nurgle book. So that's the end. All these stats are courtesy of Ziggy, Warhammer Rob, and the T-Sports Stats Center. As always, thank you to the incredible team over there at the T-Sports Stats Center doing amazing work. So there you go. Okay, what is the win rate by faction of the Magakin of Nurgle? 50%. Boom.
Yep. Hilarious.
Perfect.
I was gonna say I'll take that.
Right? That's what we want.
And that, yeah, agreed.
Like, the perfect world would be if we somehow loaded up this list and everybody just said 50%, right? Now, obviously, that's never going to happen for lots of reasons, right? But the closer we get to that kind of a grouping, and the fact that this one is the army, literally anchoring the middle point, says everything I need to know. Yeah, this is like, get Thanos out here, man, because this thing is just like perfectly balanced as all things should be, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about this other than yes, good, excellent, positive.
Matt Ward did not write this book.
Right? So, like, I don't know. Like, most of the time when we talk about win rate, there's often like some sad news and some happy news. We have to kind of construe it. But here I'm just like, nah, got it. Exactly where you want it to be. Right? So, okay. Great. Fantastic. Good job, Nurgle. You did it. Whoever was the people behind this book. What's that?
224 matches from 3.0, covering 3.1 and 3.2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, pretty good number.
Not too bad.
32 events. Nice. And the only one, Bone Splitters, Iron Jaws are close there. I'm sure Bone Splitters have 32 matches. Bit of a difference with Bone Splitters.
Yeah, like Bone Splitters and Big Wa, you can never count because they don't, like, they're always statistical anomalies because they just don't get enough play to, like, reach statistical significance. So, like, one of the things I kind of wish Ziggy would do, and because I think he's the one on charge of the front end, is I wish that if an army fell under a certain threshold, he would just not show it.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
Big Wa, they basically had the same number, 33 matches for Big Wa. Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, everybody else will have quite a few. Yeah, Legion, 26 for Legion. Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's right where we'd want it to be. So great stuff. I mean, this right here is one of the first proof points as to why Nurgle is good. And Assistant Ref, I completely agree with you. We will get to that when we talk about some of the units. We're going to have the unit discussion. Meta representation. Again, we have 25 factions in AOS. So assuming that the world was like all factions were equally interesting to everybody, which isn't really the world we're going to live in, but that would mean that on average you would want to see a 4% being your sort of middle number, or your mode would be 4% in that list, I suppose would be another way to look at it. And Nurgle 4.3%, closest to the golden mean here. So yet again, they find themselves right in the center of the space. Love it. Like, it's a popular army. People like playing it, but it's not Stormcast Eternal is obviously bent. Right?
Sure. It was very popular at Adepticon. Adepticon had one standout faction for each alliance. Nurgle, Stormcast. They may have clumped war clans together. I think they did that. And then Soulblight for Death. So, yeah.
Yeah, let me answer Cat Herder real quick here. He said, I still haven't had a chance to play AOS at all. Am I going to get cussed out at the LGS for playing Seraphon if they're this dominant? No, absolutely not. I mean, again, unless there's like a lot of jerks at your local game store. But no, you shouldn't. Seraphon is an incredibly dominant army right now. There's lots of reasons behind that. But Seraphon also has a ton of very fun lists you can play. If you bring fun lists and play, like, it is not automatically bent or broken. It's not automatically crushing your opponents. So no, there are 100 great fun Seraphon lists that you will show up to stores and people will be like, yay, and very happy to get a game against. So yeah, absolutely not. They are tournament dominant because of how well they play into the current meta and are good at winning tournament games, especially against the other top tier. Like, Seraphon plays extremely well into the top tier. That's the best way I could say it. They're good at beating other armies that are strong. So, okay. Anyways. So yeah, good representation, kind of right where we'd want it to see it to be. So there you go. Tobias says, I play ogres and Nurgle. My tastes are average. There you go. You got some good representation there, buddy. You're in a good crowd. So okay. Fantastic. Positive win rate potential. So positive win rate potential is defined as your chance to go sort of, have a record of 3-2 or better at a tournament. The average here for AOS 3 is 49%. Nurgle finds itself at 52. So it's not quite the average. That's actually Soulblight, but it's still right there in the middle. Still in a very healthy, good spot, right where we would want it to be. Right. So again, like, I love seeing how well balanced this army is. It's clearly giving good games. Being slightly over 50% means you've got a good chance of having a positive win rate. Again, that's where you'd kind of want it to average out. Yeah, it's great. That's like, this is all good stuff. This is all, to me, just proof that this book is well written. It's like that the points which a lot of people decried as being too high originally were actually correct. Right?
Yeah, on the whole, definitely.
Yeah.
There was some of these books, there was a pretty big gap in that initial reaction and reality. But Soulblight was the same. So, yeah, it happens sometimes.
Sure. I believe then credit should be given to our missing co-host, Tom, who went, 3-1-1? Is that correct? With his Night Haunt, which Night Haunt only have a 20% chance at a positive win rate. That is a bad area of the chart down there with Night Haunt and Heed Knights and Sylvaneth.
But you're saying there's a chance.
I do love that, like, Tom's army pick is Night Haunt. I love Slanesh and you love Sylvaneth, and we are like the bottom three here, Tyler. Right. Like, Warhammer Weekly just rolling the bottom part of the chart. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. Okay.
Summer's coming. Summer's going to fix everything.
That's right. It's going to turn everything around. We'll see that new Night Haunt book turn it around, and I'm sure it's going to be the same for Sylvaneth and Skaven in the summer. I have no doubt. Okay. So again, good stuff, exactly where we'd want it to be. I thought this one was kind of interesting because I think you see a lot in here. So this is the win rate versus the tiers. Okay, so top tier, middle tier, low tier. And the top tier are people basically above 55% in their win rate. The bottom tier, the low tier, are people who are below 45% in their win rate. So outside the sort of statistical norms we would want to see of the fat middle, 45 to 55% win rates. So against those top tier armies, average is 40% win rate, Magakin at 37. Not terrible, but you can see how they are slightly below average. And that reads to me. Jeff, why do you think they have a slightly lower win rate? Like, why are they towards the bottom of this chart? Not horrendously, but towards the bottom against the top tier folks.
I mean, I can only imagine honestly that they don't have that one unit that a lot of these top tier books have, that just they put out the damage so much that they're wiping units off as soon as they touch them. That unit just click, control alt delete, control alt delete, control alt delete.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have that one that can do that. It's what I've said to Tyler before, and I've mentioned it around in our gaming community. They, in my opinion, have like a combined arms type deal, where they just, the whole army as a whole needs to function properly for them to do well, and it's not just the one unit going to go out there and just smack face and be done.
Yeah. Tyler?
I watched a all dragon list just burn through a pretty good Nurgle army in a couple of rounds. I think he got the double in round 2, and it was just over. So yeah, there are, which surprised me. Like an army-wide 5-up wards. I would have expected they would have hung around a little bit longer. Now, I think it was the Beast of Nurgle spam list, so it wasn't as heavy as it can get in terms of wound count and durability. But still, I was a little surprised to see that. So yeah, just what Jeff said. I think there are some DPS check armies that can get through them, just in terms of the damage output.
Yeah, I think that would be... I think there are two basic conceptions here. So Sean in the chat said he thinks it's movement, and maybe that plays some role. I'm not going to write that off. I mean, movement is a pretty important part of the overall, sort of world to live in when it comes to AOS and winning games. But I think it's why they're so bad into the top tier specifically is because a lot of the top tier has units that do exactly what you're talking about, Jeff, right? That do control alt delete their enemies. And when your thing is being tough and that toughness is calibrated very carefully, right? And then then your opponents can come in and just be like, nope, I've got enough damage that I can just run slipshot right over the top of you, right? That you're tough. Against most armies, they'd never break you. But against me, I'll tear through you like tissue paper, okay? And I think that some of those top tier armies just have the amount of damage that they can just punish Nurgle and cut away basically its defense. And the mobility doesn't help there, right? If anything, it's sort of an additive handicap, right? If those top armies didn't have that overwhelming damage and it was just the mobility problem, I think you'd see them up more closer to kind of the average where we'd expect in the middle.
I could see that, yeah. Definitely agreed.
Okay. Versus the middle tier, they're actually above average, which doesn't surprise me at all. So 52% given a 46% average. Nurgle plays well into its equals, right? Like the other people there hanging out in the middle tier give a good game, and Nurgle is probably slightly favorably positioned against them, right? But realistically, with these stats, we've probably got a 3%, 4% margin of error, given the where the stats currently sit. So again, feels very where you'd want it to be, right? In other words, they're giving a very good 50-50 game against most of the middle tier. Great.
Yeah, and it feels like an army. I mean, this is my sense. I don't have data back this up, but it certainly feels like an army. Let's take you take Emma, who did really well with Rotbringer. You take Tom Guan has ran Nurgle a little bit. He's done well. Jack Armstrong just got back. Jack got a 4-1, or maybe it was a 5-0. I think he finished second to Darren Watson at this event over the weekend, a big event in the UK. Jack had 8 Blight Lords, Guo, Orgots, Blowab. I think that was his list, basically. And so kind of point being that I think it's one of those armies, like a lot of armies, that it's very receptive to player skill expression. And that, it's going to have that variance. It's nice to see that even with that, it's kind of coming out right in the middle in terms of the overall where it's at.
Yeah.
Meaning that, I think there are players that can make this, certainly an A-tier army, but maybe even it can be very powerful in the hands of skilled players.
Yeah.
I'm pretty convinced of that.
Yep. Okay. Let's take a look into the low tier, where again, in the low tier, this is what tells me they're in the right space. In the low tier, the average is 56%. They're 58%. Basically dead middle of the chart, right where you'd kind of want them to be. So even against sort of the lower armies, they still give a good game. They can't overwhelm those lower armies and just kill them out because of the damage, situation that we talked about earlier. Something like Stormcast or Daughters or Idneth can, who are all up at the top of this chart with a bullet. So yeah, I mean, it's, again, to me, what's actually holding them back right now is just the overwhelming power of the top tier, right? And if we see more armies in the middle tier come up in there, that's also giving them a good game. I think you'll just continue to see them remain pretty stable in the middle ground. They feel like they're well positioned for the continued evolution of the meta. So, cool. Oop, sorry. All right, last one. Let's talk about units. I want to tarry on this slide for a moment. Unit representation within faction. So Plague Bearers showing up in a full third of the lists. And then you've got Guo, Slobbity, Beasts, Blight Kings, Lord of Afflictions, Plague Drones coming in at 5.2%. Yeah! The Scrivener, the Glot King, the Glotkin. I guess he is kind of the Glot King now. Festus, the Leech Lord, Blowab, Rodicus, Reticulus, Harbinger, and Robbringer Sorcerer. Good list. Like a good list of a lot of different units. I actually like seeing their main battle line show up that much. It being the hot pick feels pretty good. Like, it always feels good when your main battle line troop is actually useful.
Sure.
It's just a good feeling with an army. Right?
I agree there.
Yeah, like, hey, this is because it's kind of the I don't remember what the name of the thing is. Magic has like iconics and which are the standout solo people, and then the ones that are meant to represent every, like, kind of the general nature of it. Like dragons are red's iconic, and then goblins are red's like whatever the word is. Like standardized creature, the sort of templatized creature. And Plague Bearers are sort of that for Nurgle, right? They show up in all the art. They are the thing. It's great when your main battle line isn't attacks, when it's like, no, this is useful. I want to use this thing. That's fantastic. But it's not essential at the same time. They're not in 100% list or 80% list or 60% list or something crazy like that. They're just good at their role. Wonderful. Like, that's great. Jeff, what's your take on Plague Bears?
I mean, I'm more likely to summon them in my list because I like my elite infantry, like the Blight Lords, the Blight Kings.
Sure.
That's normally my go-to of those units because, I mean, they can hit hard, they can take hits. I mean, by hit hard, I mean, like, I'll plink you to death. Not like, as we were talking about the DPS, they can't put that out there. But, I mean, like I said, Plague Bearers I'll summon in when I get the points for it, and they'll just be there to, oh, hey, unit of Plague Bearer is going to go this way to take care of this, going to go do this. And people are like, whoa, wait, that's 20 wounds at a 5+5+. So.
Yeah. I was actually surprised not to see the Puscoil Blight Lords on here.
Yeah, that was going to be that is shocking.
And I actually do see them show up in quite a few lists. So I think maybe it's just like they've been coming up more recently in a lot of lists. So my feeling is if we ran this like 2 or 3 months from now, they would be a meaningful percentage and would show up.
I feel like other than I don't really see Plague Bearers span that often. It's like a unit of 20 and a unit of 10, or 3 units of 10, or 2 units of 10. Blight Lords, you're definitely starting to see them come on the scene, as you just said. And yeah, like, my feeling on the book right now is, I mean, just in terms of pure bang for buck, they might have the belt. They might be top of the list for me in this book right now. I think that would be an interesting discussion to get into with some of these different units. I would also actually rate Nurglings quite high as well, as I've played against them, heard other people talking about their experience with them, both for summoning and maybe, thrown into a list as well. But I feel,
Yeah, thank you. Oh, there you go. Characteristic unit, by the way, is what they're called. Thank you, DoScreen. So at any rate, let's talk about the things that aren't on here. We mentioned Puscoils. You mentioned Nurglings. I agree. I think Nurglings are I underrated them. Admittedly, this is something I was wrong about. I didn't buy that Nurglings were worth anything in the original show. I didn't buy it. And yet I've been consistently impressed by those little idiots. And every time I've played against them or with them since. So I think that was definitely a wrong call on my part. I think Nurglings are another one that's like not here, but is highly valid.
Events like my first experience was 5 Liberators versus 3 Nurglings, right? And that's about as basic as it gets.
There is no way the Liberators win that fight.
No, not even close. Like, so that was like, okay, so these insert naughty word, they are punching above their weight class for their point value.
Yeah, sure.
And I've found that to be consistently true. Yeah, and what they can do. They have so many different uses in a game. I mean, they're a perfect Johnny unit, and just the options that they bring to the table. I love them from a summoning standpoint. They're 7 points, the cheapest. I tend to think it's Nurglings, it's Sloppity at 8, it's maybe Beast of Nurgle at like what 10. And if, like you said, if you really want to go Plague Bearers, you get up to 14. But a lot of times I've seen it's Nurglings and Sloppity. But yeah, no, they're quite incredible.
It's normally because I forget to summon stuff, so that's really on me.
Sure.
I mean, literally, I'm just so engrossed in the game that I literally forget my summoning pool, and I'm like, oh wait, crap, I get to do that.
Right.
Is there anything else, Jeff, for you that's not on this list that didn't show up? I mean, we talked about it's pretty exhaustive, but is there anything else that's not here you were surprised?
Honestly, and this is probably my playstyle, Gut Rot. I mean, I so it's always nice, just like the Lord of Afflictions can do, but I mean, it does have to be a table edge. But at the same time, it's just nice. Oh, hey, it's in your backfield. Oh, hey, it's also a unit of Blight Kings. Or I could bring the Glotkin, which I've seen. And it's just absolutely terrifying to see something like that, or even Blood because he's mortal. So,
yeah, sure.
I mean, it's, in my opinion, just like Nurgling's an underrated unit.
I mean, I'll tell you the one I'm surprised isn't here. But yeah, go ahead. I think you were going the same place I was, but go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, well, Blowab is there, but the fact that he's at 2.3% is pretty astounding. I mean, that guy almost feels like an auto-include to me. He's just utterly filthy what he can do. I mean, oh god, that was a pun. Crap. Anyway, Blowab. Yeah, it feels like he should be a lot higher.
I was surprised not to see Orgots on the list, who's another one that I think absolutely has play. I think Orgots is an interesting hammer, one of the few probably actual hammers in the army. I think he's tough enough to stick in most of the time, being on sort of because he has basically a Stonehorn profile, right? 3 up, 5 up, and he can actually deal out some decent damage. So I think he fills a really interesting role, and I was surprised he didn't show here. He's another one that I think I've seen in many lists, and I would be like. In my mind, in the future, the Harbinger of Decay just falls off this list, and Orgots comes up, and the Puscoil Blight Lords come up onto the list. That's what I think. So,
I will say I'm happy the Maggot Lords actually finally got their just due.
Yeah,
sure. The amount of hit power they can actually put out now. Finally, it's. Yep. I mean, otherwise, 2.0 book. You guys saw that, and just how pitiful it was to see the Maggot Lords just not be what they were supposed to be, in my opinion, with the lore and everything. So,
yeah. That's okay. I just spotted Festus. I'm like, Festus has got to be on this list. He's a great piece to run with Maggot Lords, and yeah, he's another standout to me. You could potentially do 3d3 heals with this guy. Keep within an inch of a Maggot Lord. Let's say 2 up, cool in your hero phase. D3 heal. He gives off the Locus of Fecundity. So right. I was building a list for fun today. Like, what would a competitive but fun Nurgle list to me personally look like? And it was starting with all three Maggot Lords, Festus, maybe not the Lord of Afflictions. I had him in there. 2x10 Plague Bearers, 2 Blight Lords, and 3 Plague Drones. Which I actually, Vince, that's the one unit that I've been coming around on a lot more than initially. You were high on them. I was a little low on them in our review show. I think they're intriguing, including with Blades of Putrefaction. I've seen one game where you do Blades of Putrefaction. I'm jumping around here, but you do that on Plague Drones, and that opens up space to where, with their number of attacks, you can stack DP disease points on 2 different units.
Yeah.
In terms of the 5 ups going off. So I thought, okay, that's fascinating. Anyway, yeah, Magathor's in a great position.
Yeah, I'm repping Plague Drones hard. I still stand behind him. I know Tom is all anti-Plague Drone. I think he's wrong. I think a lot of people I've seen, they're just you see them pop up in lists often as a one unit. I don't think they're a stack. I don't think they're a skew. I think they're a single unit pick, and I think they excel at their particular role, which is often just like disease scattering and being a sort of like you can like retreat them out. Who cares? It's fine. They did their disease. They can sort of drop and pop and run. If they stick around, you can, they're a great. If you're down to one and he runs away, they become a fascinating rally target. So yeah, I mean, I really like this list, and I mean, look, let's talk about while we're here on units, what are the misses in this book? Okay. What are the units that we don't think are going to see any play? I'm going to give you guys a second to think about that while I answer Alan's, or no, who had the question? Sorry, somebody, Artorias, who said, is this incarnation of Magakin mostly a Timmy, Johnny, or Spike army? This is absolutely a Timmy army with a strong Johnny secondary. It's Timmy because it feels very much like what you're doing. Like it's, if you want to play, I am the tough guy. I want to be tough and spread my disease around. Like it's so in theme. It's so very based on experiencing something, which is what Timmy wants. If you want to experience Nurgle, it's that. But it has a very strong Johnny element running through it because it also relies on smart play, on comboing your units and using them well, on making sure you get into the right fights and matchups as you can. That Johnny amount shoots through the roof, by the way, if you run something like the Glocken. Rotbringer Coven or the Glocken, right? Both of whom are like major Johnny tech pieces.
Unreal the skill expression you can do with the Glocken, just fascinating piece. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so now, what units in this book were a miss? Do you not think we'll ever see on this list, and probably rightfully so in their current incarnation? Jeff, have you got a pick?
Harbinger for sure. The Harbinger of Decay, easily.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's here now.
Right?
Like, honestly.
In my opinion, they missed the chance to make him a priest, and it'd been so nice to see a priest in the army that's, not a Skaven ally in, but you had a chance to make... it's just, in my opinion, a miss there.
I'm kind of glad. I'd like to see that guy just retired, is my honest answer. Like, it's make a new model.
Is this because of the sculpt?
Yeah. Okay. Tyler, you got a pick?
Yeah, I need to get my phone by me. I realized I hadn't got the book yet, so I had to print out some more scrolls. Let's see. Rodigus is like, if he were cheaper, that would be a good start. Actually see him on the table. You compare him to Guo with everything that you can do with the Great Unclean right now, and I don't even find it particularly close. Between the two of them, they made the classic mistake that they've often made over the years, with the unique character, have it be similar or in some cases higher, and it's often a miss compared to the basic version. So yeah.
But let's make a separation here, because I think that's critical what you just said. Rodigus as a scroll isn't a miss. He could have a role, and in fact, like, he does show up sometimes in lists. Let's not be like, as you can see here, he makes this list, but he definitely has a points challenge right now. But if he were to be adjusted in points, he could be a very valid choice, right? Like it's not his scroll is beyond, like, you don't look at it and go, I don't know what this will ever do.
No, definitely not. Yeah, scroll's pretty good.
Okay, cool. I'm with that. All right. So my picks are going to be kind of like I'm gonna twofer here, okay, which is the Lord of Blights and the Lord of Plagues, like the two foot heroes. One of them is slightly better than the other, but both of them just kind of have no actual purpose within the army. They're traditional foot combat heroes that don't bring enough utility. Yes, they have the chain sort of activation, but so what? Like, okay, I can also fight with my useless combat foot hero. Yay. Like, they're not buffing the other people enough. Like, the throwing heads to, like, the Blight King throwing a head isn't doing enough, so on and so forth. Like, it's a cute trick, And yes, you can sometimes get like a disease point out of it, but it's like, all right, cool. I could have gotten more disease points out of whatever else I was going to put that 100 plus points into. So both of those guys are kind of a miss for me.
Yeah, that
Especially
was
because
actually my
there's so
2
many
and
other
3.
valid heroes. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I didn't mean to interrupt. That was actually my 2 and 3. I was gonna say there was actually 3. It was gonna be the Harbinger, Lord of Blights, and the Lord of Plagues. Were gonna be
Yeah.
just you have to literally build a list around that, and it's not worth it.
Right.
So what do you guys think we need? You know, is like the thing. First thought I have with these is that we need an ability, a meaningful ability on these things to
Yeah.
actually run them, to play them.
Yeah, I mean, yes. They. Here's a bold statement I'll make. Okay? My bold statement is the following, and tell me if this checks out in your mind. There are no units, non-hero units. Sorry, that's what I mean. Like troops, I don't know. Non-hero units that are amiss in this army. They all have some role. Okay?
I agree.
I think that checks out. Yeah.
The only misses are in the fact that, like, a lot of chaos, they just have too many heroes. That they end up stepping on each other's feet, right? But yes, you're right. The answer here is pretty straightforward. It's they should offer some kind of utility. They should do something, right? Like, rather than nothing. Like, you can have foot combat heroes that are valid in lists. That does exist. But it has to be a pretty rarefied piece in how it works with the overall army. Like Sigvald the Magnificent is a good example of that, right? He has no utility for anybody else. He doesn't care about any other unit in that army. Like, quite literally, he has nothing to offer anybody else because he doesn't need to, right? He is there as a solo tech combat piece. He's a 6-wound hero, and he does it. He gets there, right? So that thing can exist, but that's the kind of level you've got him hit. And I mean, neither of these guys are at that level. They're just derpy, regular, unnamed foot heroes, right?
Oh, agreed.
So, like, if they're going to exist, they should do literally anything, and instead of nothing.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot over the years, man. Where there's been a lot of misses when it comes to those 9 wounds or less combat heroes, the lack thereof of those viable 9 wounds or less combat heroes. And this book definitely expresses that as well. You've got it in the Magaflors, you've got it in the Guo. You don't. I guess the Lord of Afflictions is your best example, probably in this book right now, in terms of 9 wounds or less. Yeah,
right, the Lord of Afflictions is great, right? Because he does something. He does a lot of something, actually. Like, he's fairly mobile. He's quite tough. He can bring other buzz people, fly buzz people up into the sky with him into reserve. That is utility.
One of the best command traits in the entire game with, overpowering stench, where it turns off command abilities?
Command abilities, yeah.
Yeah,
Charge him first into a unit that's got, something that's got Overwatch. Oh, wait, you can't do that. What?
Right. So, that is literally useful, right? So
yeah.
It's just a great example of, how to design something well that has a valid role. Probably in multiple ways, by the way, because it's interesting, because he can be, a good power pair piece who works with some people, or he can be kind of an independent actor, depending on how you kit him. And that's great. That's what you want. Not only is he a hero with one valid role, he's a hero with multiple valid roles, which is, again, better than these other heroes who have 0. But there's not that many misses. I think really it's probably those 3 would be my chief call-outs on, the scroll itself is unsalvageable, effectively.
I'd say unless you got a lot of plague bearers, which again, I haven't seen that a whole lot. Personally, not too keen on it as a competitive army. If you're trying to go 5-0 or whatever,
You're gonna talk basic Poxbringer.
Poxbringer, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see him doing enough.
So the only reason I hesitate on the Poxbringer, I thought about that too, but the only reason I hesitate on the Poxbringer is because he is a relatively cheap demon spellcaster.
Oh, sure.
So if you're just needing a demon to carry a magic item around, obviously you would just bring like Sloppity or the Scrivener or something like that, right? Because then they're a demon who can carry around a magic item.
Or Fleshy Abundance without a Guo in your list.
Exactly. But if you're trying to like just roll for the Fleshy Abundance, right, on the demon units, he is sort of the cheapest vector at that thing. He's not likely to cast it. Obviously, you're rolling for, you're playing slot machine, okay? But look, that's what ogres have been doing for years, and it's an okay strategy, just like playing the slot machines, right?
Hope for the best.
Right. You just kind of roll and hope for the best. Like, hey, it's dice, it can happen. It's not impossible or something. So that was the only thing that kept him out of that for me, is that he is cheap access to a demon spellcaster, which means he's not completely worthless, though I do think he is overpointed by a pretty big chunk right now. Like, he's one of those, like,
I'm curious, what is your too big of a chunk?
He's probably 25 points overpointed right now.
I can see that.
Yeah. Like, he should be down at the Slobbity Scrivener level. He's on the level with them. Like, I'm trading away the utility of having a cool auto toot buff for the chance to cast spells, which are not a guaranteed buff. So, like, he should definitely be down in that place. It just makes sense. I don't know why he's so much more expensive than his non-spellcasting brethren, because they're all basically the same hero, just with that shift of abilities. So, but that's just it. Like, again, he's not beyond salvation. To me, he falls more in the Rodigus camp, where it's like, oh, if we actually just tilted his points down to where they should be, he could be valid, right? He could have some use. Like, I'd spend, like, you tell me he's 115 or 120 points or something like that, 125 maybe even. Yeah, I could see lists where you bring him in as like the slot machine. Let's go for Fleshy Abundance, and hey, if I hit it, you ain't ever getting through this unit. Like, good luck. Right?
Oh, true, yeah.
Last one, and maybe it's also a points issue, is the Rubbringer Sorcerer outside of the Coven. Obviously, Coven, I mean, that's, I think, a challenging list to make work. Emma found a way to make it work. It was, again, incredible listening to her talk through all the details that she went into in that hour and a half, whatever it was, with Coach. Very cool conversation. But outside of that, I have a hard time seeing this piece make many lists. What do you think, Jeff, about the Rubbringer? Have you been putting
Definitely agreed. Outside Coven, as you said, and Emma apparently not apparently, she did pilot it very well. I used to run him in 2.0 just for his spell, and he was cheap. And now, in my opinion, there's other, as you mentioned earlier, Tyler, viable options that are just better to take. Cost-effective type deal. So
yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't, like, I wouldn't put it on the bad list just because Coven exists. Like, I understand Coven is technically a different unit, but it's three of these people, and so, like, you can't have the three of them without the one of them, right? And, like, I think Coven does have play in a couple of very Johnny tilted lists, and so because of that, it's like, well, okay, I agree with both of your interpretations that the one is underwhelming, but okay. Like, all right. It's fine.
It's still finding a home. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can still use the unit. Like, it's, if you've got, like, a Lord of Plagues or Blights or whatever, you're like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know what I'm doing with this model. Other than, like, he's a special Blight King. He's my Blight King champion or something. Like, that's what he ends up being, right? So, at any rate, yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to say on units?
Said something quite nicely with that. I'm sorry, Vince.
No, go ahead, please.
I don't know why it'd ever take a single Rotbringer versus just taking Festus instead. I agree with that.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's a very fair comparison. Absolutely. Anything else we want to say on units before we leave this behind? I mean, overall, that's, by the way, that's, like, strong. It's pretty good. The fact that so much of this has play in different lists. I think that speaks to the strength of the internal balance of the book.
I'd be curious to have a little bit of conversation about comparing, again, if we're just looking at sort of bang for buck, high impact, do some versus, let's Blight Kings versus Blight Lords. Let's say. I know you're a big fan of Blight Kings, Jeff. I don't know, maybe this is a little unfair it's kind of challenging to do this in a bubble because it is somewhat list dependent. Depends on what your list makeup is. So maybe a better one. I'm trying to think of one that might be Beasts of Nurgle and Blightlords. I think that's literally the same point cost. 2 Beasts of Nurgle versus a unit of 2 Blightlords. Let's go with that. So, which way do you guys think? They're about the same. They have different roles. Personally, I tend to think Blightlords has an upper hand on Beasts of Nurgle. I was certainly higher on Beasts of Nurgle than you were, Vince. When
I'm
the book came out.
anti-Beasts of Nurgle, yes.
You are anti-Beasts of Nurgle. I think they have roles. I've played against them. I played against spam lists. I played against a couple in a list. They're good. They're solid. I like what they're doing. The charging, the mobility, the mortal wounds. They might not do enough disease point generation for some folks. But facing Blightlords, I do feel like, for me, they have a little bit of an upper advantage just in terms of pure efficiency between those two units. Jeff, you got a sense of these two?
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think the Blightlords have a better, I guess you could even say just a better, the word escapes me. I guess it's not stability, but just, I guess, staying power. You could even say, even because they can put out quite a few disease points, more so than I think the Beast of Nurgle can. But Beast of Nurgle have their own little, in my opinion, little niche that they fill in quite nicely. As again, as I said earlier, a combined arms type deal where they fill in that hole that a Blightlord may miss on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
For me, I definitely come down on the Blightlord side. I mean, that's just, it's easy. I like him better. The flying there, I love the general durability, versatility of the thing. The fact that they can be taken up into the sky with the Lord of Afflictions. There's just a lot of benefits I see to the Blightlords as a unit and their ability to interact with all the different elements of the game. I don't think that I think I was too hard on Beasts of Nurgle. Okay. I do think that people have proven repeatedly that they can do work and can be a viable and valid part of lists. But if you ask me, I'm still coming down on the side of the Blightlords, 100%.
Yeah,
Definitely.
That's, and so even from like a spam standpoint, again, if I'm wanting to try to optimize winning games at a GT, to me, it's it probably look very similar to Jack's list, but maybe throw some Plague Bearers for bodies, some combination of like Blow Ab and maybe Orgots, probably a Guo. But yeah, I think Blightlords are just so incredible right now. Yeah, the other one, I was curious to hear a little bit more on the Blight Kings. I mean, maybe we can wait on that. I know there's a list coming up that's got a lot of Blight Kings, but
yeah, let's talk about them in some. Let's talk about it as part of the list because I want to seat those in a place. I want to shout out Smorgan, Age of Sigmar List Lab, who says I missed the news and rumors. We need to chime in. Squeak, yes, and then Rat Ninjas, absolutely. You missed the grand celebration, as we said, Smorgan. We can shut down Warhammer now. We hit it. We hit the top of the mountain. And then Leo said, why isn't Nurgle on the list? It's a good question. We don't know because not enough people have played him yet. But again, this is for everything since 3.1. My guess is over time, you're going to see that drift toward them showing up on this list. So, because I do think they have a lot of play. Okay, let's get in. Speaking of lists, let's get into some lists. So, Jeff, you're going to take us through. These are mostly your lists. So you're going to take us through the first 3 of your lists here. So this first one is Magakin of Nurgle and Blessed Sons. You've got a Guo, you've got Blowab, you've got Gut Rot, and then we have 4x5 Putrid Blight Kings. You are a lot of drops, like many drops, and then you've got them in Hunters and a little bit of Vanguard there for the other unit. So rocking 119 wounds. Obviously, those are very high value or high
Elite.
What do I want to say? Thank you. Yes, elite. Perfect word. Those are elite wounds. And yes, Leo, hi. I can see you. In your house right now, I can see you. You didn't know this was two-way? All right. At any rate, Jeff, take us through this list.
So, obviously, Gut Rat goes off with just one unit of Blight Kings, because I normally have 2 Blight King units, either protect Blob or protect the Grid and Clean one. Not that the Grid and Clean one needs protecting, but I can use that to pin a unit and then he can come around, do his thing. So to me, Nurgle doesn't have to go first. Much preferably, I want an enemy army to come towards me, so I'm not wasting my first turn to run or move up into position. Where more times than not, everybody's got double our movement at least. More times than not, or at least 6-inch movement. We're stuck at 4 for most of it, but it's a slow moving army. But at the same time, I think it can take punishment, and then once I get there, I can hold objectives. Again, I will switch sometimes and put a second unit of Blight Kings with Blob and use his 7-inch aura to. I'll just steadily move forward with those 3, and go towards an objective. Because let's face it, 2 units of Blight Kings and Blob can, and actually has. Because I played in a tournament against my buddy Laron. He had Dragons and Fulminators. Well, it was Dragons and Fulminators versus 2 units of Blight Kings and Blob, and I took both of those units out with those 3. Then again, I mean, points wise, I think it comes out in my favor because Blight Kings are 250 and Blob's 300. So, but I mean, taking the objective was key, especially in those low objective games. This army, I think, has done quite well.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Blight Kings and why you like them. And I also want to ask you a question. 10 Blight Kings in a unit. Okay. Do you ever like 10 Blight Kings in a unit?
No.
Okay. Why or why not?
40 millimeter bases, and I mean, yeah, you can finagle it, but I don't have the patience to try to do that. And I just think 10 is a waste where you could spend the same amount of points and yes, an extra wound, whoop-de-doo, but it's still an extra wound, and you can be in 2 places at once and not just have a whole unit of 10, and it's not that prime of a target. So like a shooting attack of 6 of the Raptors or whatnot, they're going to shoot at 10, and they're going to use the Holy Command to wipe out that 1 unit of 10, where, not even just the Holy Command, but just all the shooting that they've got, or even Sentinels for that matter, they'll shoot at the 1 unit, where if you get 2 separate units, you got to make a choice. Do you want to wipe out that unit, you want to wipe out this unit, or do you want to split fire and may not even wipe out either one?
Okay. I mean, mathematically, neither of those units delete the 10 Blight Kings on average. So that was
Me it will.
Sure. The reason I think 10 is an interesting thing sometimes, and admittedly this is from an outsider perspective, is that I think that unit is almost immune to shooting. Okay? Because you're suicidal if you shoot into them, you can't kill them, and then they can just keep rallying back. It's very interesting that unit will just keep coming back over and over and over again. Like the amount of pain you have to put into that, because it's effectively 41 wounds. Yeah, it's 41, or sorry, not effectively. It is 41 wounds. Effectively 62, right? With the ward. And all on frames that are like pretty decently likely to stick around, because those, there is still a base 4 up on there as well, if we're not talking about things that just bypass. So it's like, I agree with you. The limitation of not being in 2 places may be extremely significant. I mean, we're talking about a 500-point unit here, right? Yeah. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
The 4th of your list.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, that is for realsies, the amount of points you put in here. But I just think it's interesting to have. I don't think anybody's going to shoot at it, is ultimately what it comes down to, because I think they know they're just not going to be able to kill it, and then you'll just spend every hero phase rallying them back. Because why not? And just you killed me down to 5. Now I've got 7. I'm back at 8. And it's like, okay, well, great. What am I doing here? Right? Because shooting lists right now tend to need to remove threats when they shoot. Like, they can't survive shooting at something and not killing it. Which is where they've mostly lived, right? Is that almost anything they point at, they just do delete. But I think it's interesting that they don't. But I love that. Like, I'm still a big fan of Blight Kings. I believe in these guys. I think, by the way, this list is going to get real interesting if we shift toward #Horde meta in the summer. Okay.
So, I mean, these are the perfect chaff battle line horde killers.
Oh, absolutely, right? Imagine the world where, like, okay, we've got Night Haunt, and they are encouraged to be in MSU, lots of units everywhere, small units, low wound units. We got Doc coming out at the same time. Let's assume that the pendulum swings as it constantly does, and now this time witches and sisters are good again.
I mean, look at the model that we got, the Gladiatrix. Like, -3 rend is an option right now, folks.
Okay.
Yeah, Drake Ganath, witch elves or sisters, yeah.
Right. And so the so then that happens, right? So then, okay, now you got another horde army. Now let's assume in the summer we have Skaven and Sylvaneth. Let's assume we're right. Sylvaneth, you know, could be a lot of bodies, could not. Depends on what happens. I don't know. Like, you could see a world where, like, Spite Revs are a thing again, or Dryads are a thing, or something like that. It could also go a more elite book, so who knows? Could break either direction. But Skaven are certainly going to have a horde presence, right? Almost certainly that would be the idea. You got 3 new books entering the meta. If the GHB also incentivizes hordes, man, is this thing going to be great? Because Blight Kings just destroy low wound units. They're just death. So in that case, I certainly like your 5s, because you want to be maximizing those attacks, right? You just,
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think this kind of list struggles against, Jeff?
So again, those armies that have the heavy hitters, I mean, they'll hit one of the units and more than likely, again, Control Alt Delete, they're gone. Can't stop it. I know so I have played this list against my buddy Lucan's Flesh Eater Courts, and for some ungodly reason, that man rolls so many 6s when he jaws. It's ridiculous, man. It unclean one deleted. I was like, what? How? How did you do that? He's like, oh, it's just dice. What do you mean, just dice? Yeah, okay, 17% chance on a dice. But yeah, I mean, even, again, it has to be, I hate to keep going back to it, combined arms. You have to run these, at least the way I've run this list is you have to run them 2-3 units in a group where they can't, if they do send something to hit that, you still have multiple ways to get to them and hit them back.
Yeah, the first thing I would worry about is the lack. You don't really have any screens, of course, in this list.
Screens? Who needs screens? Real players just throw it out there and let's just duke it out.
That's been pretty common in 3.0 early on here. Yeah, it seems like screens have gone by the wayside with a lot of lists. But yeah, so that certainly stands out. You're also pretty high drop. I mean, you did mention, I mean, it does seem like oftentimes Nurgle would love to just, all right, you go. I'm just going to hang out and I'll go bottom of 1, and then maybe I'll play for the double, or I'll just give up the round 2 and I'll play for round 3. I'll play for the money rounds in AOS. But yeah, so you're not really doing that with 7 drops with this list. You'd have to make a few changes, of course, to get to a battle reg. Because right now, I think battle reg is 2 guys with 9 wounds or less.
Yeah.
And it is 1, leader of 10 wounds. So yeah, you'd have to get another 9 wound or less leader in the list to do a battle reg, and then you'd be a 2 drop, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I love, obviously, blow up. What about, here's been a debate, Bile's sword, the sword versus the bell? Why are you leaning sword, or have you thought much about the bell? Have you tried the bell?
I haven't tried the bell, honestly, and to be completely honest, I haven't. It's more, if I can do 4 damage, I want to do 4 damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just the offensive kit, right? I mean, that's the idea. Like, this is the pure offensive kit. And if you're, and he needs to be a kind of, additional hammer threat in this list, especially because he's floating around the Witherstaff. So he wants to be up there in the mix, keeping people in range, maximizing the value of those disease points, which if he can, I mean, given the size of his base, he's broadcasting quite an aura there. And when you put so much of the enemy army under 3-ups for become disease, like, woo boy, it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
It has surprised people before. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. So it's stuff just slowly withers away, as you would think it would do with Nurgle because of disease. So
right.
Remind me, Blessed Sun. I know it's the Blight Kings one.
The soft explode. Not like what
they have
Stormcast have. So it's a 6+, and then I have to roll. Yeah,
right. They have the bad version of the Stormcast bad roll.
That's really saying something. Okay.
Yeah.
I vaguely remembered it was not that great. Then okay, fair enough.
All right, very nice. Let's go to the next list. Ba-boom. So I saw some people talking about liking Puskoil Blightlords. Well, guess what? Here we are. So don't worry, we've got the Puskoil Blightlords if you like Puskoil Blightlords as well. Real quick here, Leo said, I have all these Blight Kings. Do you think Nurgle will have a battle force later this year? If they do, it'll be in like October, November, like probably late November, Leo. I think they're a prime candidate to get a battle force this year. This is exactly the type of army they love doing battle force boxes for. But you're talking about waiting 7 months, so just to warn you. But I don't know. I mean, who knows? Only GW knows. But
Leo, you probably know about the Vanguard box. It's amazing. If you don't, check that out.
yeah, like their Vanguard box is already fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, this list. So here we go. Now we're in Drowned Men. We got a Guo again. Same kit out as before, but now we've got the Lord of Afflictions, Gut Rot again. 3x2 Puskoil Blight Lords, still 5 Putrid Blight Kings, 3 Nurglings. Again, high drops, so 9 drops. In a mixed Warlord / Hunters of the Heartlands with the bonus artifact for the Shield of Growths on the Lord. Okay, so take us through this one and why you like this one.
So the Lord of Afflictions, obviously for the Blight Lords, I can strike multiple places, and then same thing with Gut Rot with the unit of Blight Kings. The deep striking, or not deep striking, but I guess the hidden infestation for the Nurglings, as Tyler said, it throws people off. So you're already in their deployment zone, you're already just outside the deployment zone. Are you gonna want to engage that? And then by that time, the Blight Lords are right there, and the Great Unclean One obviously is still always a good threat. I have contemplated, and actually I probably would. I would not make the Great Unclean One the general. So I would give the Lord of Afflictions overpowering stench, but
yeah, I mean, you could deploy with this list such that the only unit on the board is the Guo,
yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just one. He set down your Great Unclean One, and that's it. Like he's the one unit on the board. Everything else is in reserve, effectively.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know when I've mentioned that to people, they're like, "You can do yes, we can."
Sure.
And I would imagine it would be like, where are they coming from type deal, because I mean the entire army could be not the entire army, but actually a good portion of it can be in different places at once. So
sure,
a rapid assault force type deal.
Yeah, which can help with maybe one of the armies that they can struggle with. I've heard some others comment on this. Stuart Iron Gutsman and he had a amazing video. I think one of your guest Vince, forgetting the fellow's name, who did the Slaves of Darkness show, he mentioned Stuart's breakdown of Nurgle. Excellent show. He talked about this. He's had some challenges with Kharadron Overlords because of the mobility and the ability to put damage, focus damage in a particular part of the board and then pick up everything and relocate. So yeah, with this though, Drowned Men, it gives you that pregame move, right? It's before the first battle round starts, whatever your movement is on the Blight Lords.
Yep, 8 inches.
8 inches, yeah, correct.
Cool. So you push out your bubbles in terms of, pushing out the shooting threats. But then also, you can counter deploy with everything dropping in. So that's quite interesting, I think. It's like Drowned Men is maybe the most Drowned Men and Befelling Host, two most popular right now that we're seeing stuff action-wise.
Yeah, I didn't. That is a stat within the Stat Center, by the way. I didn't pull it, but yes, that if people want to know, you can just hit the Stat Center link, and that does say there. So like that. I agree with you. It's definitely a strong pick. I don't know if it's actually the most popular, but it's certainly, I think, one of the ones that has a lot of game, given its ability to really play with the board control in an army that often struggles in the movement phase, right?
And what's the Shield of Growths artifact doing?
So once the Lord of Affliction does start taking wounds, so like he's got 1 or 2 or 3 wounds on him, when you roll the save, if you roll that 1, 2, or 3, because he's got that amount of wounds on you, you get to re-roll the save.
Mm.
So he's got a 3+ save to begin with. I mean, you more times than not go to a 4, maybe a 5, because not everything has Ren 2.
Yeah.
I mean, so 4+, and then re-rolling 1s, 2s, and 3s. If he's got those wounds on him, that's fine by me. You have to hit him with mortal wounds to potentially bring him down pretty easily anyway.
I remember we had this debate, Vince, about the Shield of Growths versus the Split Horn Helm, and it seems like the internet's decided, our community has decided the 4-up ward is the way to go. So it's interesting, Jeff. You thought that, you're leaning this over the 4-up ward with the helm.
Fail that all day. 5+, no problem. 4+, fail. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. It's just just like 2+ saves. 2+ saves, fail them all day. 5+, no problem.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it is an interesting artifact, and we did talk about it a lot. And I think it's fascinating because if you're willing to let him run a little hot, it does make him just incredibly durable against non-mortal wounds attacks, like ridiculously durable.
Definitely tanky, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if he's got like 3 wounds on, which is still he still has a healthy amount of wounds left, like that's that's a pretty handleable number by him. The fact that you're now rerolling all 1s, 2s, and 3s to save is like that's nothing to scoff at, right? So even under like Rend 1 with no save buffs of any kind, he's effectively 4-up complete rerolling, and rerolling saves turns out pretty good.
Yep,
pretty strong, So.
Mentioned, I mean, just for reference, the Nurgle infestation. Yeah, so the Nurglings, they pop out of terrain. They set up off board and then they pop out of terrain. Is there a limit, Jeff, on does that have to be like wholly? That has to be wholly within the enemy's territory, right? Terrain wholly within the enemy's territory, or maybe not?
Let me take a look. See here.
Yeah.
Just because I've got the book.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if there was a limitation for that, because I'm sure. Yeah, against some armies, it could be some challenge in actually
It's just wholly outside of your territory.
Wholly outside your territory. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
within
wholly
3
outside
inches
within
of a
3
terrain
inches of
feature
terrain.
and 9 inches of an enemy unit. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, nice.
So,
Yeah,
Pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Yeah, especially on a lot of restricted your territory maps, you've actually got quite a lot of room around the board to be playing with those guys. And again, definitely. Often that lets them just insta-grab objectives all over the board. Right, and establish that additional board presence.
Yep.
Which is what I swung around to on them. After watching them actually in play and their ability to sort of just, claim those midfields. And again, in a list like this in Drownmen where you can also be pregame moving your Blight Lords, like it's just a great combination of abilities. Those two things working in tandem.
I've seen Sloppity with Nurglings, where Sloppity, I mean, he can go one of 2 directions, right? He can give the mortals on 6s to wound, I believe. Yes. Or he can fart on you and shut off the ability to pile in.
Yeah.
So that minimizes the damage that's coming the Nurglings' way. So that's a great little combo. You could have 3 Nurglings popping out, potentially summon a Sloppity, place him right there where you need him. Yeah, just this unit's pretty. They can be hitting on 4s to hit with I think 5 attacks each. So 15 attacks, really good for DP generation, given the 6 to wound. They're doing mortal wounds on top. These things can get a lot of work. And then they heal at the end of the battle shock phase.
Yeah, they just go back up to full wounds. Yep. If you
you got to kill them. Got to kill them right out, or they'll just keep growing back.
Yep.
So I loved Morbidex when we had that conversation, Orgots versus Morbidex. I do. Emma mentioned this as well in her talk with Coach. It does seem like a mistrick if making Nurglings battle line if you have Morbidex as your general, because a lot of times that's going to be a real cost, because he's not taking an artifact, he's not taking command trait. But I think that
you've just got really good command traits and artifacts on this list. Not that he necessarily needs to carry one, but you do have good command traits as well in his army.
Definitely seems like you should have the Lord of Afflictions as a general, though, Jeff, in this list.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then
bench.
The more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
Stream of Corruption, what's that do, the spell?
That's the 7 inches, 5 for every model within 7 inches on a 5+, it does mortal wounds. Or I could amplify it within 14 inches and then it's every 6.
Okay, interesting.
So, for those units, that have 10 models.
Have you played with Gift of Disease yet? Just the base spell. Have you been playing around with Gift of Disease?
I have not, no.
Okay, I am going to say when we first reviewed it, I was pretty underwhelmed by Gift of Disease. Obviously, it's both a spell as well as the thing you can give through the little their little special arcane tome, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And I have come around so hard on Gift of Disease as being amazingly good. Like, that spell has straight up blown me away every time, because you just sit there and bomb the thing. It has like a real good range. And oftentimes what it means is you get 1 disease point running on their whole army. Like, just their whole army. Because people love a tight castle. in the current world.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like you hit that unit and everybody within 7 inches, and it's just like, well, you get a disease, and you get a disease, and you get a disease. And all the non-hero units, that's just there, right? Most armies don't have access to healing for non-heroes. So that's never going away, right? And now you're taking rolls at those units and just chip damaging them for the rest of the game. Now, by the way, that's just like the early part. Of course, you can just keep doing it, right? And you just keep pushing everybody's disease up. Just more points get thrown on. And it's just easier ways to push a big section of their army up to that 7. So I've just been incredibly impressed by the spell because of its combination of like range and efficacy at just getting everybody under disease. Let's just start, because you want to start that game as early as possible, right? We want to start the fun roll of just like, let's get this slot machine going. Who's got the 4-ups? Who's got the 4-ups? You got it. You got it. You got it. Right. And it just lets you do that very early on. So anyways, it's worth it. Try, give it a try. See if you like it.
21-inch range. 21-inch range. It's on a 6, so that's better than a lot of these spells when you're not getting any buffs for the most part. A lot of these spells are 7, so that's good. And then the 7-inch pull out. You just got to be able to see that one target that you're picking. Yeah, amazing.
There you go. Night Kids. I don't have anywhere where the lists are, but I can ask Jeff to maybe share them on his socials or something. So you could if you'll share your lists out on your socials, Jeff, then you could hit him up there.
Yeah.
And I'll put Jeff's socials in the description. All right. Let's flip over to the last list. Okay, so Magakin of Nurgle in Munificent Wanderers. Let's get Plague Bearery. Here we go. Guo and Rodigus. That's right, we got the double big boys. And then 3 by 20 Plague Bearers and 3 Nurglings. Okay. All right. 6 drops again, Hunters of the Heartlands, and the Alpha Beast Pack. There's a bold selections we're making here. Okay. Take us through this.
Basically, just throw it down and just come at me. Just throw them across the board and everything just goes. I mean, 40 Plague Bearers, or not 40, 60 Plague Bearers is quite a bit to chew through.
It is, yes. Each one of those being, as we said before, 40 wounds, 60 effective wounds. You do have Fleshy Abundance off the Guo in this, so they can certainly pop up to suddenly being 60 wounds, 90 effective wounds. That is no joke. That is an unbreakable wall of meat. So this is basically your meat list, right?
Yep, that's it. Yep, and that's just it. Even if you beat a bunch of them up, retreat them out, throw another unit in there, rally, as you mentioned earlier. Oh, wait, here they all come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is 100. What I love about this is you got 1,000 points in 2 models.
Yep.
Right, and yet this list still has 170 wounds. Taking 2 500-point heroes is normally the way to get yourself to a low wound count, right? But no, here 170. The only question, and this Chris just raised this, can Alpha Beast have the heroes in it? I thought it was just Behemoth as well.
It's just
but can it have hero Behemoths in it, leader Behemoths in it?
I thought it was just.
I thought they had to be Behemoth only.
I think they have to be Behemoth only. Yeah.
I was wrong.
It's all right. It's okay.
No worries.
I was going to bring that up.
That's never happened before,
Chris beat me
right?
to it. No, it's okay.
Never. So
I still like the list, regardless. We don't need that battalion in the end, so we can just.
No, that's fine. Just take it out. It's not there.
There you go.
I love you, Jeff, and most of your list. And are you ready for the 3 letters? The BUT. Here we go. I don't get this list at all, man. How in the hell is this list winning games with battle tactics? How is it getting enough battle tactics done? How is it killing him?
You can still advance. You can still. I mean, that's still 20 models on an objective for each of those units. That's still quite a few, because most people are, as we've talked about earlier, running MSUs. So, and you ain't gonna chew through all that.
Maybe. I would love to see somebody. Have you guys seen anybody do really well with Plague Bear spam? I would love to see it. I just haven't yet. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They're an extraordinary unit. just don't your idea about combined arms and building a toolbox with your Nurgle list, going Johnny style. Totally get that with a unit of 20 and maybe a 10er or 3x10, but not 60. So yeah, and then there's Rodriguez as well, which we talked about. I don't really quite get the value that it's bringing to the table at almost 500 points. Why Rodriguez? Let's start there with this list.
Plinking damage from a distance because of the spell. That's literally it. Just plinking damage, mortal wound output.
Is that gonna get enough done at 500 points?
A model's cool.
Okay.
That's a good defense.
Yeah, take that. Rule of cool.
That's a good defense.
There we go.
So,
see, Jeff, I'm the agreeable one on this show, and I've got to find ways to stop being so agreeable. So you're getting the experience right now.
there you go.
I hope you're
Ah,
No,
there
it's
it is.
interesting because
That's
it does
love
have
for
a
you.
challenge, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's 900 points of I'm not sure what these guys are doing as far as moving anybody off an objective, right? Like this list does definitely have a hammer problem. That's the challenge, right? So
Yeah.
it's can you win solely by just existing, right? Okay.
Tyler, you know I like to run just fun off the wall stuff anyway, so
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. It is, yeah, I would love to see you incredibly.
Yeah,
well
we
with
didn't
this.
necessarily say 3 competitive lists.
That's
We
true.
said 3
That's
lists.
true. That's fair.
And this you got to have some fun stuff in there. And this one's just this is the meat challenge. This is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest of Nurgle lists.
I mean, look, I told you, Vince. I finally found the thing that 10 protectors cannot kill. 20 plague bears. It turns out.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So, yeah.
Makes sense. I a couple weeks back I had a game with my Slaves to Darkness using like my standard sort of Iron Curtain Slaves to Darkness. So like a bad build, but I was running despoilers. And I went into 20 plague bearers with like I went in with like 2 units of 5 knights, a chariot, and a lord on Karkadrak, and I did eventually win that fight. But like eventually.
it wasn't pretty, but we did it.
We got there. That's what it took, though, out of that list to bring that unit down.
Yeah.
So, never has the Lord on Karkadrak with his pitiful rend felt better than when he was attacking plague bears. Let me just say that. So,
I'm in my
it's
happy
like,
place. I'm in my happy place.
yeah, I can shine now, finally. Okay.
Before we close with Emma's list, if
Yeah.
you would indulge me to mention, I did mention Jack, but I love Jack's list from the weekend. Again, it was the Burning Head he had in as well, which was brilliant as a pairing with Bloab's spell. Maybe again one of the best spells in the game, arguably. That if anybody doesn't know, Blow Up has this spell that anytime a unit, so cast it on a unit, I think it's within 14, time it takes damage in a phase, at the end of that phase, it's going to take another D3 mortal wounds.
Right.
So again, if you've got a toolbox list, some plague drones, some mortal wounds
Right.
that you can blink off in the hero phase, you can do damage in each phase. That was the other. I've had 2 ways, that I've lost a unit of 10 protectors, I think, over the last 2 months. It was getting bogged down by 20 plague bearers, and then a perfect combination of mortal wound spam, taking them out with him as the centerpiece. So he had that combo with the Burning Head to put that out, blink some mortal wounds, trigger that additional D3 from Blow Up spell. Thought that was really cool. 4 units of 2 Blight Lords, Bloab, Orgots, Great and Clean One. I think that was the list. Just to me, that's like one of the clear expressions of some of the most efficiency that you could get out of this book when I look at it personally. So big fan of that. And
Yeah.
then do you guys have any thoughts on that list, or does that make a lot
No,
of sense
I
to
like it a
you?
lot. I agree. I like that a lot. I also think that, I mean, we'll talk more about using using the other. When we get to Emma's list, we'll talk about endless spell potential for also disease casting. But that's an interesting sort of like corner shot at the combo with Bloab spell there. I don't hate that at all. I mean, a lot of what you can do in this list is show the power of just lots of D3 mortal wounds or chip mortal wounds. Especially in the current meta where lists often average around 100 wounds, 110 wounds, something like that, right? Like you can actually really, in a sort of elite meta we currently live in, it's amazing the kind of damage that stuff can do. Which
totally.
does say that those lists might change if we again go to hashtag horde meta and the wound count drifts up, right? Suddenly those won't be the thing. But again, Nurgle's well positioned, as we mentioned earlier, to react to that. It's not like a Great Unclean One can't still just carve his way through hordes. It's not like Blight Kings don't just make just a mess out of low wound
Right.
big units. So there's certainly still options in this book to respond, which I respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Jeff, he had the Stream of Corruption spell that you've got in quite a few of these lists, or maybe in all
Mhm.
of these lists. So yeah, that was cool to see. I hadn't seen that around a whole lot. Maybe I was just missing it. Yeah, and then the usual, yeah, Nurgle Infestation, and then the Wither Stave. Just an extraordinary artifact for, again, yeah, for the Mortal Wound output. You're talking about Vents.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
it's just a
yeah,
great combo, right? Like your Nurgling Infestation to make your very tough Guo even tougher, and the Wither Staff to make everything around him just drop dead.
Yep. Pretty
and
standard.
then Jeff, I'm curious if you find this compelling. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, the triple Magath Lords. God, I feel like that actually could be a pretty good list.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've heard, so I'm on a Facebook group that's nothing but Nurgle or whatnot, and one did stick out where he ran those three. I don't know what else was in the list, but literally the three Maggot Lords. I was like, okay, that looks solid. I want to play that. I just need to get the other two Maggot Lords just to see all three of those guys running just smack face would be pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. You could still. I was playing around with variations today. Doing the two list format that we've got going on with Vault Wars, and it kind of worked out perfectly. Where it's like, all right, get a nice core, get Festus in there, get triple Magath Lords. I think I threw in the Lord of Afflictions. And maybe that I think that was one of the flex pieces. Yeah, that's what it was. It's one of the flex pieces. Anyway, yeah, just a lot of optionality with this. Love Festus with those three for the healing, the Locus Fecundity, -1 save roll spell. If you can get that off on a 7, that works out really well with the -2 rend. That's going to be doing a lot of the work from those triple Magath Lords. All of them have the same mount profile. They can do some real damage. I like the Lord of Afflictions with that, with Overpowering Stench, Arcane Tome, make him a wizard, get Gift of Disease as part of that vents, start the clock. With Festus, you could do like Blades of Putrefaction or something else. This list I had the 3 Plague Drones, so you've got that. Still had 2x10 Plague Bearers and Blight Lords. I was like, I don't know, it was like, there's a lot. It was a 3-drop, it was Battle Reg. It was like, so I hadn't seen a whole lot of these triple Magath Lord lists. But yeah, it really feels like there's some real play with them right now.
Yeah, I feel like it might be slightly over investing, honestly, just because of the way
It's also half your
Morbid.
army.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the way Morbidex and Orgots tend to be filling the same role, frankly.
Yeah.
Just with slightly different sort of
Abilities.
slightly different capabilities, but basically they're in the same role. Like I get I could see two of them. Like pick your favorite between Morbidex and Orgots, and one of those and Blowab. Sure, like I'm on board for that. That checks out to me. I get what you're doing. I understand what the strategy is here. The third guy just feels like he's like literally just the third wheel in this relationship, right? Like he's not adding
Yeah.
anything.
It's more of the fun thematic choice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was something like this: Lord of Afflictions, Festus, Blowab, Orgots or Morbidex, 2x10 Plague Bearers,
Yeah.
2 Blight Lords, 3 Plug Drains. Yeah, you drop one of Orgots or Morbidex. Now you've got 300 to 320 points to work with. If you flesh out more battle line, yeah, I mean that could even be what almost. I was going to say that could be 3 Blight Lords, a 2-er, and a 1, but you're 10 points off with that. Yeah. Anyway, you could play around with that and have a pretty damn good list.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Last up, we just wanted to share Emma Mengel's list. This is none of ours here. Emma, as is in the pick of the week, if you want to see the show where she discusses this in some detail, the Coach show is linked in the description below. But we just wanted to spotlight it because I think it is a pretty great list, as we just mentioned. So this is in Befouling Host. It has the Guo with Blowab and Orgots. So the combo that we just talked about with the two, which by the way would be my 2 picks. Let me just say that. I'm an Orgots stan all day. I think he's better than Morbidex, just bottom line. And then 10 Plague Bearers, 1 Beast, 10 Plague Bearers, 3x1, another 3x1 singlet Beasts. Battle Reg. Good stuff. Yeah.
I don't know that this was actually.
Oh yeah, no, this is the right
finally
list. No, because
Did
this,
she
yeah, this is
have?
wrong. Because she had the Rot Coven. How did this? You sent me the
That's-
wrong list,
Oh,
and I didn't
Oh.
even notice.
Was that my fault? Oh
It's your
no.
fault. You sent me the list. Yeah.
Oh wow, I did. Oh crap. All right, sorry,
Sorry,
man.
this is not her list. Go watch the show for her real list. I
Yeah,
apologize,
absolutely.
everyone.
Let's try to.
JK,
Let's try
Tyler
to-
sent me the wrong list, and I just copy and pasted it in and didn't even bother to
no.
reread it.
That's what
This
you
is what I get for not double checking your work, Tyler.
not verifying. That's what verify. Have you ever heard of that before?
I apparently didn't trust. Yeah, she was because she was using the Rotbringer Coven.
She was. Yeah. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, it was totally different.
Yes. So let's get off of this list because that's not right, and we'll go back here. All right. What was her list? Read out her list.
Yeah. Let me pull up the show. And the Mangles. She had 2 endless spells that were fascinating choices. The Horrorghast and the Shards of Valagar.
There we
the
go.
Other one.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. So, okay. So I apologize, everybody. We don't have the list to reference. Again, blame Tyler. No, it's all my fault because I'm supposed to double check everything he sends me, so you can blame me. So she was using the Rotbringer Coven to power out these various and sundry endless spells. Now, Shards of Valagar. This was actually a Tom pick very early on, so he's absolutely aligned with her. Like right when the book came out, he was hot picking Shards of Valagar that week. And Shards of Valagar is interesting because it's an endless spell that moves but is very easily under your control in how it swings around. Powered out of the Rotbringer Coven, it gives disease. And it has these 2 big bases that you can swing around each other. Okay. It's got a very good range on it. And as you swing the pieces of the little shards around, it actually stops enemy... Well, it doesn't stop it. It reduces enemy movement. So it's doing everything you want it to do. It's sitting there in their line with 2 pieces, both of which are disease beacons. And it's slowing down the movement of the enemy army. Okay, so Shards is a hot pick for an endless spell out of this. Because remember, the Rotbringer sorcerers, whenever they cast a spell, basically it gets the disease sort of trait, and it acts like a Nurgle model, passing out disease in the movement and combat phases. The other one being the Horrorghast, which I really, really like. Not only, again, because of sort of the range and the capabilities here, but I'm going to actually go pull up the Horrorghast so I can read you the exact text. Because again, I think this thing is underrated. So it's got a range of 12 inches and it flies 8. So we're talking about sort of this 20-inch threat range. So good range, right? Units wholly within 12 inches of this endless spell cannot receive commands in the Battle Shock phase. In addition, if a unit fails a Battle Shock test wholly within 12 of this endless spell, add D3 to the number of models that flee. So remember, the nature of Nurgle is such that, as I'm sure, as Jeff will tell you, Gumber said that's my list, Tyler. There you go. He said that's his list. Anyways,
Oh Lord, Brett, that's hilarious.
There you go.
Goodness.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the nature of this army is, as I'm sure, Jeff, you've seen, is you're going to spread a lot of mortal wounds around to a lot of units, right? And you're going to have a lot of units that just end up taking battle shock tests because you just chip away. Like you lost 3 guys over here and 5 guys over here and such and such. Depending on how you build, you can really lean into that. And so being able to shut off Inspiring Presence from the one unit you really want to crumble because you're not a hammer that can just lift units often can make the huge difference, right? So not only do all these other people roll and then potentially have more models flee out of their unit, but also the one key unit, it suddenly ramps your offensive efficacy up into being at the level of a hammer because they bleed a bunch of extra models they never intended to lose. So I just think it's an incredibly clever list using those 2 endless spells in a very synergistic way. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
I will include Emma's.
Sent you an email with it.
Okay, well I can't bring it up right now because we're in the middle of the show, but I appreciate it.
So there's too much detail to go through it, but I'll just give you guys the highlights. Yeah, so it was Filthbringers, what's the sub faction, of course, with Rotbringer Coven. Just as the Leech Lord. She took the additional enhancement spell as the additional enhancement, so all of these wizards have an extra spell. Again, it's all about the utility toolbox that she's building with this list.
Yep.
And then the three Rotbringer sorcerers, one with Master Magic and Arcane Tome, so it's casting an extra spell with up to +3 to cast if they're all within the little triangle together. And then, yeah, Master Magic to do the reroll Unbind and reroll Cast. Bloodspond, Orgots. So she's got, a really nice hammer piece there. She's got Blowab. And then, yeah, 2x5 Blight Kings, excellent units. We had a lot of discussion about them. 10 Plague Bearers, 3 Nurglings, and then, yeah, Horghast, Shards of Alagar. 2,000 on the nose, 6 drops. Battle Reg, she's got a command entourage. Hunters for the 2 Blight Kings. Yeah, so she had the 2 Blight Kings, both in Hunters. And yeah, Jeff, I think like this, you were talking early on about the toolbox, building utility in your list, combined arms. This is just such a beautiful list on that front. There's so much that you can do with it. It's got hammers, it's got responses to a lot of different situations. It can.
It's got strong
summon.
control elements too.
Got strong control elements. Yeah, I can deal with hordes. She's got rancid visitations, the horde killing spell on a 2-up, the Blight Kings to help deal with hordes. She's got hammers. She's got ways to do more wound spam. Just a beautiful list that's also going to actually still probably be a real challenge to play well. But yeah, I love it and feel like it's a great expression of the Johnniness that you can do with this book.
Yeah. I agree. It super leans into the Johnny aspect, right? It's utility toolbox control all over the place. It's a great list. So
I'll say very combined arms again.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
love it.
Totally.
Yep.
Like you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different war scrolls on top of the endless spells and whenever you're summoning. So always think about that in terms of list building. Like if you get actually usually 7 is that number. Like armies that reflect the model range. So yeah, that's a really cool aspect of it. But anyway, stop gushing about it. So sorry about the screw up.
No, it's all right. All good. My fault. Okay. Well, good stuff, guys. And that brings us to the end. So let's say, Jeff, any final thoughts on Nurgle before we call it a day here?
Again, as we said before, I think a very, very solid book, like one that I think gives everybody in all aspects a very good game. And it's not like it's gonna go out there and blow people away. It's not like it's gonna go out there and get blown away. And I think a very, very solid book, and that's why I enjoy playing them so much.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, Tyler, your final thoughts?
Clearly, I love this book. Hope we see more of it. It feels like it's going to be able to adapt quite well. It's got a lot of variety that it can adapt as the meta shifts. It gives good games. It's an army. I love armies. Vince, we talked a lot about this over the years as well. Armies that are both factions and armies lists that are designed to play 5 rounds.
Yeah, sure.
That's how I love to build lists because it helps give a good game for your opponents. You're not blowing them off the board in round 2. And that's, Nurgle does that as sort of part of its signature. So yeah, amazing book.
Absolutely. I agree with both of everything you said. I didn't expect to live in a world where I think the best designed book, or maybe my favorite designed book, is Nurgle. That just didn't seem like a possible world. I was very worried about this book. I thought it was going to be, like NPE City, as Nurgle often can sometimes be, or has been in its past. That was not the case here. They did a fantastic job with this. It's got like the versatility of it, the viability to run different lists, to put all the different units in play, to have different paths to victory, as I said at the beginning. I think it's truly a standout. I hope we see a lot more units books like this. I hope that it's only surpassed when the Skaven book comes out in the summer. Fingers crossed. That's give me that level of flavor and feeling like I'm really doing the thing when that book comes out, and we're gonna have a great old time. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, very much. It was great to have you on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For all of you out there watching, thank you so much for doing so. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, do all those important things. Don't forget we have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. It's focused on hobby feedback and review. So if you're trying to get a bunch of Nurgle painted and you want some help, join in. We got a fun Discord community, all that kind of thing. Links for everything, as well as the merch store to decide if you want to support Team Tyler or Team Tom is down in the description. Team Tyler still winning. Team Tyler is a train that cannot be beaten. So I
doing my
saved it till
best
the end of
to
the show
support
for you
Team
this
Tom.
time. What's that?
I'm doing my best. I've been rocking Team Tom. I even had it in my Twitter profile.
But thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.